I've spoken to a young man called Jonah Platt. Father is a very famous Hollywood producer. He hosts a podcast, very successful, called Being Jewish. And we spoke a little while ago, but I wanted to bring this to you now because there's a lot in there about how we stop what has occurred happening again and how we reverse the rot. And it's a really important conversation. Thank you. Jonah Platt, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it. It's so lovely to, well, not have you back on because we've done this before, but for your incredible podcast called Being Jewish. So we've now shifted.
We flipped it. So thank you for having me into your home. It was a pleasure having you into mine, and my audience absolutely loved having you there. And your new fans and audience love knowing you now.
Bless you, and thank you again, not just for having me on, but for the work that you do. It's not often that Hollywood types enter into this space, and probably for good reason. You probably know this better than anyone. Why did you decide to take up this fight? You didn't have to?
I kind of did, honestly, is how it felt. I mean, how could you, as a Jewish person, you know, October 7th happens, and it's like, what? I'm supposed to go rehearse for an audition for a guest star on The Rookie? It's like, this is the historic moment of my lifetime, of any Jew of this generation, for sure. And I don't know, for me, it wasn't, I really didn't make a big decision at first. I mean, it was just where my energy and time wanted to be spent. I couldn't not be engaging with people and trying to help and try to get involved. Like, I mean, and I've asked this of people in the course of me having the show, which I started a little bit later after October 7th, but if what's happening now is not enough to get you up out of your seat and doing something, like, what could it possibly take?
I remember learning about the Holocaust back in school and wondering what I would do as a bystander. And I think the thing that struck me so significantly, even at a young age, I couldn't comprehend how people could stand by and do nothing when this horrific thing was happening. Not for a second did I ever think that I'd be in a position, or the world would be in a position, where that would be tested.
Yeah.
You, as a Jewish person, you would have been raised with so much awareness of what had happened to your people and the history of your people. Did you ever for a second think that you would ever face anything even a little bit similar in regards to the world turning against you?
No. And, you know, we as American Jews surely see this now, that we were naive. I mean, my colleagues who have come from the Middle East and North Africa or from the Soviet Union, they all know what we're dealing with. You know, they've all recently had to flee societies that have turned on them. So they've had their eyes open. But those of us who had been living in America, I'm a fourth generation American. You know, plenty of Jews have been here for some time. That community sort of only saw the quote unquote golden age that we'd been living in really since, you know, sort of starting, you know, after World War II, but there was still a lot of discrimination. So let's really say even like, you know, mid 70s till the late 2000s, you know, really very little discrimination, widespread acceptance, widespread assimilation. And what we're seeing now is, like, that was the not normal thing. Like, what's happening now is the normal thing. This is what always happens everywhere. And we were kind of naive to think that it wouldn't happen here.
Did you experience any element of it prior to October 7? Your father's obviously a very famous producer, did Snow White, La La Land. You're an actor yourself, a performer, stage, TV, movie, the whole thing. Had you experienced any anti-Semitism?
Zero. I mean, nothing. I became aware of it happening in our society, you know, years before October 7th. In fact, it had been growing at an alarming rate for several years leading up to it, 5, 7, 10 years. And there were certain people sort of, you know, hitting the alarm bells being like, guys, this is looking bad, especially on what we're seeing sort of from the left. It's this new breed of Jews don't count. It's this exclusionary thing. It's this double standard thing. It's, everybody can recognize somebody doing a Nazi salute, but it's like much harder to pinpoint the anti-Semitism we've been seeing rising out here on the left in the last couple of years. So I until I started to sort of identify that, and then I think a big wake-up call, obviously, for a lot of people was there was widespread violence against Jews in the 2010s, several shootings and stabbings, and the most notorious was the Tree of Life synagogue shooting. So that started to wake a lot of people up who focus on this area, being like, whoa, there's something really serious and bad happening that we've got to deal with.
Yeah. Did your dad try to discourage you from speaking out ever? What was his reaction?
Yeah, definitely not in terms of anything I'm doing. I mean, my parents are super proud of me. They've both been guests on my podcast. So no discouragement. The only time there is ever any sort of discussion about something like that is if it's somehow like work related and has to do with him. And then he's like, we need to, you've got to communicate with me about this, and we have to, like, I need to be involved in the decision making here about what you're going to say or not say. But when it comes to just like speaking about Jewish stuff or Israel, like generally any of that, like, couldn't be prouder, is very supportive of what I'm doing. And now, like, in a way that makes me feel proud, sort of looks to me as like not just his son, but a person in this role. So like when there's something going on, like with the Venice Film Festival recently, he reaches out to me and is like, I want to see if I can, get you the film that everybody's talking about there, so you're prepared, so you know how to deal with what's about to come down the pike, because there's going to be a lot of noise around this movie. So we have a great relationship around this stuff.
Yeah, amazing. It must be, I mean, anyone with a famous, well-known parent, I think, finds elements of it difficult, but I think the plus side for most people is much greater.
Yeah, of course. And yes, on the professional side of things, there's always a relationship to navigate and concerns of that nature. But in terms of like our personal relationship, and certainly the Jewish stuff, like, it's been totally easy and supportive and great.
What do you want to achieve? What in a year or 2 years do you look at with the podcast and with using your voice and your platform? What do you want to look back at and say, okay, tick, box ticked?
Yeah, great question. All I'm trying to do really with sort of all of my advocacy is flip a really simple switch, which is to sort of turn the Jewish switch from we should be afraid, we should be trying to blend in, we should keep our heads down, we should tiptoe, we're the most persecuted people ever. Flip that switch to we're the most resilient people ever. We have amazing accomplishments. There's so much awesomeness about being Jewish, and we have so much to offer, and we need to celebrate that and take up space in the public sphere as Jews the way everybody else does with their own identities proudly. Like, we need to join that club of everybody else taking pride in whatever they take pride in. Jews need to do the same thing too. And so, on my season finale of season 1 of my pod, season 2 comes out on September 30th. But the last episode, I read out a couple of the letters I had gotten back from people who, inspired by the show, had gone out and done stuff and made changes and taken action in their real lives. One woman even went and volunteered for Magen David Adom in Israel, inspired by the show, which is crazy. And, another woman spoke up at a school board event for something that was anti-Semitic, where before she'd be terrified of public speaking, but felt, I have to do something. This is the moment. A bunch of stuff like that. So a year or 2 from now, the more stories of that I get flooded with from the show, that will tell me that what I'm doing is working. And I'm hoping to sort of help support more like in real life event stuff that's more celebratory and bridge building with our friends and neighbors, and just really getting out there as Jews publicly and doing away with this whole we need to blend in and be quiet so they'll leave us alone thing, because clearly that doesn't work. So let's try the other thing.
No, I love that. It's so interesting because you look at all the different accolades that you can receive. I mean, the vast majority in this space is hate and death threats and the whole thing, as we know. But for me, when I look at when I think, okay, I'm getting somewhere, or when I think I feel quite proud, it's not about an award. It's not about anything like that. It's an email from a guy who works down in the mines in Western Australia, a 50-odd-year-old ochre Australian who's not engaged really in global politics or the Middle East, who sends me an email and says, you know, Erin, I just wanted to let you know, I just watched one of your clips. My morals and values haven't changed, but the side I now realise they align with has. Thank you, you know. And then I rang him and I said, oh, that just, you have no idea how much that means. And he said, you know, I saw these images of kids and my heart broke and I cared deeply, and all the propaganda, and, you know, I didn't understand. And I think that's the key, isn't it? It's really what it comes down to is person by person by person just trying to open their eyes a bit, or in your world, give them permission to exist and be and fight and have a voice.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, you and I are sort of on the same team with different roles. Like you're achieving something different for a different group of people, and there's overlap to what you're doing that helps what I'm doing, and I think vice versa.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
They're both such important roles. And, you know, I hope there's also ways to do some of that at scale. Right now, I'm definitely focused on the person to person through the pod, but brainstorming, you know, how do we jump start this? How do we get this sort of vibe or this information to people at scale in a way that helps flip 10 people at a time, 100 people at a time, rather than one at a time. So, you know, the wheels are turning, things are happening, but it's a lot.
What's the hardest part?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, the hardest part, I think, is just, you know, I'm a natural optimist and a realist. So to me, they sort of go together. I know that, like, I can put my head down and affect change, and what goes down is going to come up. And I'm a realist in, like, what I can control and what I can't. And I'd say the part that I guess is hard, none of it feels like so hard, but the hard part is knowing, like, no matter how loud I am, like, Jews are a minority of a minority of a minority of a minority. And if the global majority wants to believe a certain thing, there's just no amount of shouting we can do that's going to be louder than everybody else altogether. So that's a tough reality sort of to swallow. And we're seeing that worsen over the summer, where when the media says it and the news says it and your favorite actor says it and the influencer says it, it's hard. You know, I give people a little bit of grace in that, like, yeah, okay, they're going to believe it because everybody they trust and listen to is telling them this is what the truth is. And I remember you saying, Erin, when you were on my show, and it's something that I've quoted before, like, the single mom who's on her way to do drop off or pick up or the groceries or whatever, she flips on the car radio, she gets 30 seconds of Israel's a genocider or whatever it is.
Yep.
And that's her understanding of the narrative. That's all she was able to sort of have time to dip into. I can't blame her. She's not a scholar. She doesn't know any better. I mean, she probably doesn't know any Jews or whatever. And that's a really tough obstacle to overcome.
Because you're right, though, and this is it. You know, it's one thing for an influencer or a rabid anti-Semite or a nutcase who jumps onto every cause without understanding anything about it. It's one thing for them to parrot these lies that come directly from Hamas. But when my Prime Minister is essentially quoting Hamas propaganda to his people, and when legitimate or once legitimate, none of them are in my eyes anymore, but, you know, like the BBC or CNN run as fact terrorist propaganda, how can you blame people in the world? Because your assumption is they're journalists, they're reporting the truth, the facts, etc., etc. If it was just influencers or you know, idiots, you can you've got more of a chance. But, you know, the United Nations, people go, come on, Erin, it's United Nations.
Yeah.
And you go,
it goes,
now you've...
Yeah, it goes back to that whole sort of one person at a time thing. It's like the only way to dispel that for someone is to really reach an individual and, like, show them behind the curtain and help them really understand how up is down and down is up. And it's hard for people to believe that when, you know, everybody around them is saying up is up and it's just the
Yeah.
one voice saying, no, 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 up is down, that's a tough battle. It's just uphill. So I would say
Yeah.
the hardest part for sure is the uphill nature of that battle. We still have to do it, but it's just, the deck is definitely stacked against those of us trying to bring the truth to people.
You mentioned actors, and a lot of actors are just so badly on the wrong side of history here. Have you lost friendships, relationships? You grew up in that space because
Yeah.
of your stance?
No, I haven't. And
Ah.
I'm a rarity in that regard. I know that. I don't know if it's just like I pick really awesome people to be friends with, or that I've just been like super Jewy my whole life. So like if
Yeah.
you were friends with me, like you knew that was part of the deal from the beginning.
Yeah.
Look, for all I know, there are people on my periphery who maybe have fallen away or are not as communicative with me because of this. I don't know if they are or not, because you lose friends on your periphery in life
Yeah.
anyways. So I don't
Good
know.
point.
But nobody close to me who really mattered has done that, and I've been able to have hard conversations with friends who disagree or don't understand because we're friends first. And I think that just sort of
Yeah.
speaks to the quality of the person that I'd like to be friends with. I don't let people in easily. My wife says it's like people think that I can come off as maybe I'm not interested in getting to know you,
Yeah.
like it's an ego thing, but I'm actually just quite guarded about who I let in.
Yeah.
And so I think it served me well in this chapter of my life.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I think it's, I went to a reflexologist for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't even know that it was feet that they did, but she was
Right.
doing my feet, and then she said, "You've built a wall around your heart," and then just went back to my feet. I was like, what? Really? And then I kind of thought about it, and I went, well, why wouldn't I? Like, I feel like it's the most delicate, valuable thing in the world that we have. And once you heal and work on yourself enough to be happy with who you are and not, in toxic relationships and whatever else, why the hell wouldn't I protect what is mine and what is valuable?
Yeah. I love that the reflexologist just saw deep into your soul
Literally.
through your soul.
Must have been through my second toe twice removed or something. I
Right.
don't know. Must be linked in. But what do you do to switch off? Do you, because I have the bestest and greatest of intentions, but it is almost impossible to switch off from this space. I feel like I live and breathe it. Do you have things that
Yeah.
you do that allow you to have respite? Do you do Shabbat? Because that's
I
what so many
do.
people say to me. You've got
So-
to do that.
I don't keep Shabbat in that like
Yeah.
no electronics, we don't drive in, or like I don't do that. We do
Yeah.
stuff on Shabbat, but we do Friday night dinner Shabbat every Friday night. And I definitely, phones away on Friday night and try to be as
Yeah.
present as I can. And we all strive to, whether we're dealing
Yeah.
with this or anything else in our lives, to like, we all know we could be more present. We all know we're distracted. We all know we're thinking about other things. I have ADHD, so I'm always thinking about other things. So I'm working on it. I guess to like unplug. My favorite stuff to do is just be with loved ones. Honestly,
Yeah.
I have 3 kids, so 5 to bedtime is kid time, and
Yeah.
I try and fail sometimes to like not be on the phone at all, not be thinking of other stuff, really trying to be with them. And going out to dinner with my wife or being with friends, that's where I unplug from this stuff is the real life. And it always makes you feel better, right? If you're just living online and in the news, it seems like the world is imploding. And
Yeah.
look, maybe it is, but like when you walk around in real life and you're just
Yeah.
living your day-to-day life and you're there, I still very much enjoy my life and love it and feel very blessed and grateful for the life that I have. And that's what allows me to, keep hitting the work day after day, because my actual life is actually great despite all that's going on.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Final question. Politics. When you talk, you sound like someone who is mission focused. You've got an incredible way of communicating, which is not that common. Would you ever consider a tilt?
I've had conversations, but really, honestly, what it comes down to for me is my kids. And
Yeah.
I want to be around as they grow up. And I know, if I was going to do something, let's say in California, I'd be in Sacramento 8 months of the year, 4 days a week. If I was going to
Yeah.
do something in Washington, we'd have to uproot the whole family and I'd never see them. So it's not worth it to me at this stage of my life. And, ask me again in 20 years and we'll see.
Yeah, no, I get it. I think, if you can be effective externally, I think why would you go into that hellhole of,
It's a hellhole. I mean, it's like, well, I wouldn't wish it on anybody, let alone myself or my children.
The only thing I kind of think is because people say to me, oh, but, what about all the skeletons? And I'm like, are you kidding me? A, I'm so boring. And B, there is nothing about me that is not already in the public eye, given the people who are trying to destroy me. There's nothing. There's nothing. So but yeah, I'm the same.
Are you thinking about it?
Daughter. No, look, my dad was a senator.
Right.
So he was a major general, then a senator. And he's actually the most individually voted for politician in Australian history. So he's a legend. Wow. He was a legend. We lost him a couple of years ago. But no, I've had 2 former prime ministers approach me directly and ask me to run. Well before this issue, I kind of have always been very passionate about different parts of Australian society. But same as you, I look at, the lifestyle I have now. I walk my daughter to school in the morning. I go and pick her up in the afternoon. I work in and around her. Being a mum is my number one job. And I feel like I can be more effective outside of politics. I think if that changes and I think I can do more from within, I will. But I look at it and I just go, God, at this stage in my life, being a present mother and having that freedom is, if I was still with her dad, it might be different because then we could go as a family unit to Canberra. But at the moment, hell no.
Another thing we have in common.
Yeah. You are a legend, Jonah. Thank you so much for everything that you do and for just being amazing in a space where a lot of people choose to opt out. And I get why they do. And no judgment, but you're incredible. Your fight is so inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Text one to no one.
Oh, bless you. And how can people follow, watch, consume?
Thank you. Yes. So the podcast is called Being Jewish with Jonah Platt, though, of course, it's not just for Jews, as Erin's episode will attest. We're on all the audio platforms, and we're on YouTube at Being Jewish Podcast. And you can follow us, Being Jewish Podcast, on Instagram. And I'm also on Instagram at Jonah Platt, on X at Jonah Platt, TikTok at Being Jewish.
Love it. Legend. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so, so much for watching, for listening, however and wherever you do it. Again, sending you so much love. Love you all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you tomorrow.